A few episodes ago, we had Kris Kelso on the podcast talking about his book called Overcoming the Imposter. And he's sharing quotes now on social media now that the book is live and in person out in the real world. And I wanted to share a story that was on his Instagram, which I think was, it spoke to me in some things. I hope it will to you. Let me just take a real quick snippet here. And today's episode, as you launch out onto the loop, is called Procrastination is Failure Avoidance. Or we'll do some flavor of that. Join us today on Curiosity Continuum.
Hey everybody, this is Josh.
And this is Brian.
Welcome to Curiosity Continuum. We are a podcast and movement started by two lifelong friends whose mission is to guide you through a changing world by helping you level up your contextual awareness and sharpen your collaboration and problem-solving skills. Our conversations explore, examine, and reframe common practical topics that help you learn something new and apply what you already know in a new way.
If you find these conversations helpful, please hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app and rate us and leave a review so others can join the community. And you can always find us on curiositycontinuum.com and on our social media accounts. Thanks for tuning in, and let's start the conversation.
All right, Brian, you were talking about, and we did have the pleasure of having Kris Kelso on a few episodes ago, and you were talking about reading his book, and he was starting to post on social. So let's hear that quote you were talking about.
Yeah, so this is a story, and it was posted at some point. Let's see here. That would have been February 1st. So if you want to go back in the archives of Instagram, there it is. And it was a quote from a woman named Lisa. So I'm going to just read this to you. It says, Lisa finally found the courage to leave her job and start her own business. She spent a lot of time setting up her office, working on a website, getting business cards, and writing content to post on her blog and share on social media. But she was avoiding one crucial task, going out and talking to potential customers. She always found a way to feel busy, but she wasn't generating much income. Finally, she realized that the fear of being rejected, of being told that she wasn't good enough, was keeping her from doing the most important thing she needed to make her business successful. Procrastination is failure avoidance. If you allow the imposter to convince you that you are likely to fail at the most important things you need to do, you may fall into the trap of avoiding these important things. So, framing that about being procrastination is failure avoidance.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about that concept, because sometimes procrastination creeps in and go, why? It's not important. I'll do it later. Right? But let's take a look at this particular lens, because I can 100% relate to the reasons why I procrastinate on something. And a lot of it is I don't want to fail. Now, it might be like a dumb thing, like, I don't want to have to punch two holes in the wall to figure out exactly where I need to hang a picture. Maybe I just don't like doing that.
Right.
But again, those are the activities I got to do to be successful at hanging a picture on a wall or building a business or anything.
And I think we were kind of discussing this before we recorded too. I said, I think, and like Brian was saying, that this really spoke to him, this quote, this little story. And I said, it kind of speaks to everybody, I think. And if it doesn't, I don't think you're being 100% honest with yourself, because I think we've all had these times or these things, and it might be about little things, but it's also about big things. And it's easy to keep the status quo, and if you never try anything, you don't fail. And if you don't have any pressure to do anything, it does take kind of a risk to even start. But once I think you start, then you start just seeing that, it's not that bad.
Yeah. There's very few things, I think, in that is so catastrophic that you won't recover on something.
Right.
So Josh and I want to throw this into the ring so people know, Josh. So we had the opportunity early when this podcast was starting to come into an old retro cocktail arcade. And so we got it, and it was great. And we're like, hey, part of the things that Josh and I were exploring, hey, maybe we do retro gaming memorabilia and things like that.
Right.
We quickly decided that we don't want to be in that business necessarily, because it's a great business, but not one we wanted to be in ourselves personally. This particular thing, because there wasn't debt attached to it that was egregious, there was actually no debt attached.
Well,
to
yeah,
it.
we got lucky. We'll be honest. We got lucky. It was cocktail arcade cabinet that didn't work correctly, and we, spun a price off to the guy, and the guy goes, "Why don't you just take it?" So we didn't pay anything for it, but we did put some money into it, like $100, I would say.
Yeah. And I had to ship it down, which is me coming down a while back to see Josh, because you don't want me fixing an arcade. You want Josh fixing the arcade. So we had a chance to kind of see it and say, hey, this is what it could be and do. And we kind of talked about it a little bit. But we waited on this thing.
We did. And I had it fixed pretty fast.
Yeah. So we should have probably just turned around and done it, and we could have done the deal. This thing started to grow hair on it, just in the fact of like we didn't move it.
Yeah, it started to get to the point where it was in there like a year, and my wife was like, "Are you ever going to get rid of this?" And then I was like, "Okay, well, either I'm keeping it or we're getting rid of it." And that's when we really started looking for a buyer for it, because some of this stuff too, I think why Brian and I did shy away from it a little bit is because the market is extremely tight. And there's a very specific person you're looking for when you're looking for something like this to actually sell them. You're also looking for specific people that are willing to pay what it's worth, because something's only worth as much as somebody's willing to pay. So, I mean, we were lucky, really, and Brian made the contact with somebody who actually was looking for this exact machine.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't. It came up. It wasn't even like a, hey, I'm advertising it. It came up in a conversation,
right? Because
I met her, and at the time she was working and doing like e-commerce for like a comic book store, and they'd sell memorabilia and things. And we got talking. I asked him, I said, like, do you ever do anything with video games? Because they actually have everything but video games in this particular place that she was helping. She goes, no. She goes, we haven't ever gone there. It's not where we really want to go. She goes, but I love video games. In fact, she goes, I'm really looking for like a Ms. Pac-Man Galaga cocktail table arcade. I mean, she said it.
And that's what we had.
That's what we had. I'm like, you could not have asked for a better sales situation than that. It was awesome. Now, I'll tell you this. Here's the fears that I had about this particular thing, because this got shipped back up to me in Nashville. Now, I don't know the engineering stuff like Josh does. That's his like specialty, like to be able to make that stuff work really well. I make other things work, but just not the same things that Josh makes work in life. I was concerned, like, if I have to move this thing, like, is it going to break? Because at that point, this is about a 25-year-old machine.
Right.
I'm like, well, what if the buyer's mad because it doesn't work? I started to play out all these other scenarios, because I was not an expert on retro arcades. It wasn't like I had a bunch of them. I actually went around and I went to some of like the parts places around Nashville just to find out the other retro arcades to kind of see what they had going. Part of it was business model, kind of like evaluation, like, do we want to do that? But also too, I was hiding, because I'm like, oh man, I don't know about this thing. Like, I don't want to be stupid talking to the buyer.
Right.
So I had this fear of not being the expert, or it's like, oh yeah, you got yourself an arcade and you have no idea what you have. Like, I knew enough about it, but like Josh could answer all the other questions about it. At the end of the day, the transaction worked out fine, and the buyer's very happy, though those machines are what they are, and there's only so many of them left in the world, and it worked out fine. Now, when Josh and I kind of did the forensic analysis, we said we could have moved it much faster than we did.
Absolutely.
Because we didn't. So procrastination sometimes happens because of the failure avoidance, like that. Sometimes also too, there's no failure horizon. Like, for example, like Josh had the space in his garage / workshop / whatever it is.
Storage
and
area.
Exactly. Christmas decor space. The horizon for when this thing actually needed to go out into the world.
Because let's be honest,
we
didn't have a buyer when we first got it. We just got it because it was basically available. Something like that, we just jump on.
Yeah.
And so we were like, and we were like, well, I'll fix it up. And Brian was here for a few days, and we fixed it mostly up. And then I rewired some parts of it. So I got it done in like 2 weeks. I had it completely done. Then it just kind of sat there, and it was sat there apart for a long time too, because I didn't put it back together.
Yes. So part of the procrastination thing, if you are procrastinating, it's because you're putting something off, but what are you putting off? So it actually has a time element to it.
Right.
Procrastination's easy. So like for us, let's say that we had leveraged $10,000 of a credit line to buy one of those things, which unless like there is like, mafia gold hidden in one of these things, it's not worth
It's not worth
$10,000.
$10,000. Yes.
It's just not. But if we had to be like, okay, we need to move this because in 30 days we need to make the payment and we don't want to make the payment. So let's scoot it along.
Right.
And so in that saying that like, if you set time goals, now you can actually measure procrastination.
Well, you set a constraint for yourself. And
yes,
that's what we've talked about that before. We've talked about context and things like that. And that's what this is setting a context for yourself, a hard line. And don't just be one of those, and it's really easy to be one of those people that goes, well, here's the line I'm setting. And then the line comes and you're like, oh, guess what? That's a month from now. Because then you're procrastinating on the procrastination.
Yeah, and I've done that on certain tasks that pop up on my phone. I'm like, this is just, I got to just take it off entirely. Because
in fact, I actually did that today on a project I'm working on with another friend, which was kind of funny because he gave me like 3 months to do it and I didn't do anything on it. And so I just told him, look, by March 1st, this is going to be ready to go. And I actually said end of February because I was like trying to keep the timeline good, And he's like, you didn't do anything on this yet, did you? I said, no. And he's like, oh, that's okay. He goes, I didn't do anything on my side either. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let's make a hard goal for ourselves. So we put it on our calendars. Now it's every like 3 days it reminds me. So
yeah,
that's important for me. I need that.
The moment of truth right there. No, it's good. Like, so I'm sorry.
It is funny.
Because Josh and I have worked on school projects together before too. And
we've done that.
Yeah. Sometimes brilliance comes out because like you are under pressure, but it's because you actually like put the work in an amount of time. So like what Josh and I are focused on it, like we actually did. We pulled off this really kind of crappily awesome science project where we had to do refraction and reflection of light. And this thing was terrible. We got an A on it.
We sat in Brian's basement for like 6 hours doing nothing. And then in like 20 minutes, we came up with the experiment.
Yes. And we weren't like brainstorming for that 6 hours.
And we didn't even know if it would work. That's how bad it was. We didn't even know if it would work, but we knew that Brian and I knew we knew what we were saying. We just didn't know if the experiment part was going to actually work. And lo and behold, it worked. And I think the one thing the teacher wrote on there was, I think it went above a lot of the students' heads, but it was good. And we were like, yeah.
Yeah. Talk smart enough and you get an A. This is what we try to avoid on this podcast altogether. Right.
We have aged, and with that age comes a little bit of little more wisdom, I think, in how we do things.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to, like with this topic especially. I think we're trying to do it in a fun way. It could be a serious thing for you.
Indeed. We publish regularly, and we have quite a log of episodes, which I encourage you to go back to the backlog of Curiosity Continuum to listen to all of the other episodes. But Josh and I have a specific day of the week that we will record. We have a specific day where Josh does edits and I'll review. There's a very specific time that we publish. And that structure and that cadence brings excellence over time. It may not feel like it's doing anything at the immediate thing, but it's actually doing the right things. And all of a sudden you got a pile of things you did right. You go, oh, hey, like here's your quote success story. It's like, well, how did that happen? It's a bunch of little things just done regularly. And a lot of times people think like, well, for like Jeff Bezos, for example, he just recently announced that he'll be stepping down from Amazon's CEO position, which is also called I'm too darn rich to do this job anymore.
Right.
But
he's done it for 27 years.
That's the whole deal. So even though like only in more recent years did you see like Amazon just flip and become this phenomenon, he was building the phenomenon for all those years when people are going like, what in the world are you doing? And he tried many things.
Yes.
And he failed at many things. But the things that really took.
That's the important thing too. Like Brian was talking about like how we record, we edit, and then, we post. And honestly, that timeline that we use and the deadline of publishing, when I'm not feeling like editing, gets me to edit. And sometimes Brian knows that I'm editing at last minute. And I'm like, it's like, this is like Sunday morning and I'm sending him an email or something. But a lot of that has to do with my own work schedule too and the cadence of my work. But I always try to have a couple of days a week where I edit, and I don't edit all at once. So it's not important that you don't have to do it all at once, and you don't have to do it all on the same day. In fact, just kind of, you can space it out. Just don't get to the point where, look, I had to burn the midnight oil now because I was, farting around for, a week and a half or whatever.
Right. With procrastination, I'm thinking about, because I have two children that are high school and middle school age.
Experts.
And you think, I mean, skilled technicians here. It's fun to watch them grow into the skilled technicians. I'm thinking about the dating scene, which I haven't thought about the dating scene in quite a while, because both Josh and I are longtime married men at this point in our life. But it's like if you were to ask people to the prom or the dance and you didn't do it, you're putting it off because you're afraid like somebody's going to reject you. Going back to the story at the beginning of this whole thing, right? Now, you could have just asked. Now, some of the people went like, how in the world, like, you all know the stories. Like, you're going like, how in the world does that person
end up with that person
going out? Yeah. It's like in the Sandlot, Yeah, it's like Wendy Peppercorn. It's like, how did he end up with Wendy Peppercorn? It's like, well, because he asked. And he was not afraid of failure.
And even if you're rejected at that point, I always found, you know what? At least I know. I'm not going over that, like Brian was talking about, how he's going over in his head, like, oh, I have to do this. They're going to think I'm dumb, basically. I don't know. If you ask somebody out and they say, heck no, you're like, all right, cool. At least, it's crushing, but it's over.
It's temporary.
Yeah. It's an absolute temporary setback. And that's not, and if you do that enough, hopefully you're not rejected constantly, but if you do that enough, then it becomes part of who you are. You're like, oh, I can recover from this. So the procrastination becomes less and less. And you're more apt to actually do the things you need to do in life.
You've built the habit, and you're not afraid of the answer being no. Like, no is not the worst answer.
No, in fact, sometimes it's the best answer you can hear because you whittle your possibilities down, which means you're putting your energy into what's important.
And you're moving forward.
Right.
So don't live in the world of like, well, it might kind of maybe not might work out, because you're basing it on no real information at that point.
Well, and you're projecting your own insecurities.
Yeah. So if you have other things that are kind of in your mind, like, that kind of sounds interesting, make sure, again, we'll just wave our hands at Kris Kelso in his book, Overcoming the Imposter, to check those things out. There are things that lurk in all of us that we could all benefit from going back and looking at and going, why am I putting that off? And it's never too late to start now, to do something different and to try something new. I don't hear any elderly people at the end of life saying like, I did that thing and I tried it and I failed. Man, I never should have done that. It was like, I'm glad I tried it. It's always, or it's like, I wish I would have tried this. If you're looking back and you're saying, what am I going to like doing or not doing? Take that sagely piece of advice.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a great place to put a comma, huh, Brian?
Until next time, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
For Curiosity Continuum.